Yo, what is going on, friend? How you doing? I hope you're doing well. So, first of all, just want to say a massive thank you for obviously the response I got from my 4-month transformation video, which I can link in the description below. I'll link a card up here. Got amazing response. Again, I'm so appreciative and grateful for all of you and all your support. It really meant a lot, right? In particular, not just the kind words, but also some of you asked some pretty good questions, right? Because obviously, part of my physical transformation mainly came from a mental transformation. Do you see what I mean? And that came from, from my experience with lifting weights and doing calisthenics, is learning how to not compare myself to other people anymore. And that's where obviously people started commenting of like, how do you stop comparing yourself to other people? Which is important because obviously if we are always constantly comparing ourselves to others without acknowledging our own progress, then obviously it can impact our self-esteem, it can impact our self-confidence. Is why a lot of people can quit on their fitness goals and their health because, when they look at where they are compared to other people they compare themselves to, they feel like they're not making enough progress, so they just call it quits. And so in order to actually stop comparing ourselves to others, first of all, it's actually important to understand why we compare ourselves to others in the first place, right? And this involved a lot of internal work for me to establish why I was always comparing myself to others and then beating myself down. It's usually because obviously when the main reason we compare ourselves to others is obviously to review our own progress, right? Sometimes instead of actually reviewing where we are compared to last month or last year, sometimes, we'll just compare ourselves to other people to see how well we're doing, right? And although this can have its place, obviously that's where usually mentally it can impact our self-esteem, because naturally as human beings, when we actually compare ourselves to others, we always actually compare ourselves to others ahead of us. Do you see what I mean? So when we're actually comparing ourselves to others, we're comparing ourselves to others who are further along their journey than us. And so we always come across as inferior, right? The human mind will always triggered to focus on the negative. So as a result, no matter how much we try, like when we compare ourselves to others, we're always going to come across as inferior to the other person we're comparing ourselves to. So if you take me, for example, when I started my fitness journey at 120 pounds, skinny, weak, too scared to freaking talk to girls, right? It's like I would actually compare myself not to people in a similar situation as myself, but I actually compare myself to others who were where I wanted to be, right? With an additional 10 to 20 pounds of lean muscle mass, full of confidence, ripped six-pack abs, can rip their shirt off on the beach with confidence, right? I would compare myself to those types of people, right? And that made me feel insecure because I didn't have that. Do you see what I mean? That's what happens when we always compare ourselves to others. We compare ourselves to others where we lack something. And so when we actually make progress and we compare ourselves, let's say we're at A and we compare ourselves to others at B, so when we actually get to that point, what then ends up happening is that we then increase our own standards, right? So as I said, for me, when I got to a point where I gained 20 pounds of lean muscle mass, I had abs, I was more confident in myself. What happened after that is that, again, the kind of people I used to compare myself to, I didn't compare them to anymore because I was now at that similar state. Now I was like, right, now I'm comparing myself to others who are, 2 to 5 years ahead of their journey compared to where I'm at, or even 10 plus years. And I'm like, oh, it's like, they got another 10 pounds of muscle more than me. They got another 20 pounds. Like, they got even better looking abs, right? They got a better looking chest than me, right? And it's like, it's just continuously keeps on going on, because the more we actually progress, the more we increase our standards. And the more we increase our standards, right, the more we actually compare ourselves to others with even higher standards, right? So when we're here and then we compare ourselves to people at this state, we then get to here, and then our comparison to others goes zhung, 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 and it's literally this continuous vicious cycle. I think especially when it comes to health and fitness, the reason we can have this tendency to do this, because we've all got in our head this ideal physique that we feel is like the perfect body, right? In reality, perfection doesn't actually exist. So when we actually have this goal of a perfect body, when we actually then achieve that perfect body, it's like then we have a new standard, right? It's like we get to the perfect body, it's like, oh, it's still not enough, right? So I still don't have enough broadness around my shoulders, my arms still don't fill up my sleeves quite enough, right? It's like, yeah, I can handstand, but I can't handstand on one arm, right? I even had that when I first learned the handstand. It's like it continues goes on because we've got this ideal like scenario in our head of what perfection looks like, and then we compare ourselves to people in that perfect scenario. So when we actually get to that perfect scenario, we then create a new perfect scenario. It's literally, like I said in my transformation video, it's literally the state of like, we race to the finish line, and we actually get to the finish line, we extend the finish line, and we're like, I'm still not there yet, when in reality, we're actually making progress, but we're just increasing our standards and then comparing ourselves to people with higher and higher standards. So the way we actually overcome this vicious cycle, right, which took a lot of work for me, I still compare myself to others on a daily basis, but now it's to a shorter extent, right, to a less extreme extent, because I know how to manage it more. So it's a case of, as I said, it's look at your goals, what you want out of your health and fitness. Look at your values, what you value most from your health and fitness. Some people value muscle size more over mobility, whereas others value mobility more over muscle size. So those types of people, the person who values more mobility compared to the person who values muscle mass, they're going to progress in certain elements at different rates because they've got different goals and different values. So their ultimate action steps are going to be completely different. So the result they create is going to be completely different, right? And when you look at where you are now, your experiences, what you've gone through, like, we've all got different starting points and we all got different scenarios that impact our progress. That's another thing with comparing ourselves to others. It's like we feel like because we got certain flaws or insecurities, it's like we then look at others and look at what, you know, they don't struggle with. It's like, oh, it's like they got this and I'm struggling with all of this, right? When in reality, we've all got flaws. We've all got insecurities. That's what makes us a human being, right? So when you actually understand what your goals are, what your values are, and where you are now, you realize like you're completely unique human being that no one on this planet is actually like, right? It's like no one is like Jake Gay because Jake Gay is Jake Gay, right? If your name is Bill Blogs, no one's going to be Bill Blogs more than Bill Blogs because everyone's completely different. So when you actually look at that, you realize that, especially in health and fitness, when it comes to muscle gain, fat loss, and everything in general, is that we're all actually in our own lane, right? We're actually all in our own race because we're all completely different, right? Because we're all completely different, we've all got different starting points and we all got different finish lines, if that makes sense. So it's like, when we compare ourselves to others, it's because we think we're in this race to get to the finish line quicker than anyone else, right? It's like, I know, for example, for me at school, it's like when, you know, us and the boys would all get into fitness, it was all a race of like who could get to the biggest bench press, who could get to the biggest squat, who could build 10 pounds of muscle the fastest, right? It's like who could get to the finish line the fastest. So everyone was comparing themselves to others, right? Whereas now, so when you kind of look at it, it's like, nah, it's like you're the only one. And you're the only one competing yourself in your own race, right? So that's where, you know, the whole cliche goes of like, don't compare yourself to others. But now it's like when you actually look at that quote, it makes perfect sense because, as I said, you're no longer attached to thinking you're in this race to beat everyone else, because really the only race you're in is the one with yourself, right? From where you are today compared to who you were yesterday. You see what I'm saying? So it's much easier said than done, but that is how you overcome comparing yourself to others. Instead of focusing on others, you focus more on yourself because we're all different. We all got different goals. We all got different values. So we all progress at different rates. Everything else is irrelevant. Do you see what I mean? And so, like I said, it's like because we naturally can be inclined to compare ourselves to others, one thing that helps is actually having a system to like break the loop. So for me, if I'm like scrolling Instagram, be like, damn, like this guy has got such a better physique than me. I'm just like, I can either like click my finger or like clap my hands or like get something to break myself out of the loop. And just like, Jake, you're in your own lane, man. Remember, it's like you and this dude on Instagram, you're both in different races, right? So it's like, don't compare yourself to someone else. Don't try and beat yourself. Don't try and win a race in a race you're not even facing, if that makes sense. Win your own race, right? And that's you comparing yourself to yourself and beating your own self on a daily basis. That's why like my own coach advocates the whole thing of becoming 1% better every day, right? Because becoming 1% better every day, it's not actually about how you progress compared to someone else. It's how you progress compared to yourself, right? So it's how, you know, where you are now compared to where you were yesterday. If you get 1% better every day, like that domino effect, the law of marginal gains, it compounds massively, like day after day, week after week, month after month, 365 days in the year, like bang. Like you probably won't even recognize how you look because you will look and feel completely different. Do you see what I mean? Because this is the whole thing about focusing on yourself. Because when you're focusing on yourself, you're not, you know, looking at what everyone else is doing to the sense of like when we actually compare ourselves to others, we always focus on the negative. We always focus on what we lack compared to someone else's strength, right? When comparing ourselves to others, we never acknowledge our strength, right? We only look at our weaknesses compared to what everyone else's like strengths are per se. When, as I said, if you actually, you know, look at yourself as a human being, there's things that, you know, you may have things you need to work on, have improvements like everyone else has, right? But there could be like strengths that you have that you don't acknowledge, that others may look at you and be like, damn, like I wish I could do as many pull-ups as him, or I wish, you know, I could be that consistent and work out and, you know, eat healthy every single week, all that kind of stuff, right? So that's the whole thing with comparing yourself to yourself, because you get out of all this negative BS in your head of, you know, the things that go on in your head when you compare yourself to others, because it's a false standard, right? It's a standard that doesn't actually exist. Do you see what I mean? The only standard you should have is your standard right now, and, you know, beating that day by day, week by week, and actually progressing and improving yourself on a daily basis. That's the only standard you should be looking to actually improve, because remember, you're in your own race, right? You're in your own race at the end of the day. So yeah, I hope that all made sense. I know I've been recording, I've been rambling for quite some time, but I do feel it's a really important element to actually focus on, right? Obviously, a lot of the things in the fitness industry, we look at the looks, we look at the abs, we look at the muscle, the fat loss, all the physical looks, when in reality, the thing that's most important is actually strengthening this thing here, right? The more we strengthen our mind, the more we can strengthen our body, and the more we transform our mindset, the more the body will transform and follow. You see what I'm saying? So with that said, if you have enjoyed this video, you're getting value from this video, by all means give this video a thumbs up. Appreciate your support and feedback, and also comment down below. I'll be curious to know what your biggest takeaway from this video has actually been. If you want to hit me up on the social, Instagram, Facebook, again, I can link it up here. All my social links will be linked in the description below. Literally shoot me a DM, say, hey, what's up? You can even tell me that you came from this video. And yeah, I'd love to chat. I love interacting with each and every one of you who are all aboard the Gains Trade Express. So I believe that is absolutely everything covered. And yeah, like I said, thanks so much for watching. Appreciate your support. We keep moving forward, and stay tuned, because in the coming days, I'm gonna have more content to help you, support you with your health and fitness, particularly covering skinny fat, as that's been most requested recently. So stay tuned. We always keep moving forward, as we said. Ciao, ciao.